All right, let's take a look. So we're doing this review sheet, review test, whatever. And the test will look pretty much like this. Okay, there's 20 problems on this review sheet. There's 20 problems on the test. And I believe they're kind of in the same order, the same style of problems. Of course, different numbers. All right, let's take a look at number 5. Z squared plus 13z. Takes forever just to write it out, doesn't it? Plus 36 over z squared plus 17z plus 72. Now it says divide, right? So instead of divide, what do? We multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put the bottom up on the top. Why would they put a plus 0z? Let's just put minus 64. Is that alright? Because they put plus 0z. You don't really need that 0 there, do you? And then and we take that top and we put it to the bottom. So that's z squared plus 4z. Alright? Okay, well, what's the key thing that we're going to do here? The multiplication is actually the easy part. But before we get to the multiplication, we got to do several things here. 4 different things. What is it? Give me one word. One word. No, not distribute. Not reduce. No. This whole thing right here. What can we do with that whole thing right there? Factor. Right, that's the word. Yeah, I don't think you said distribute or something. Okay? Factor. We got to factor this stuff. That's the key to this. It's basically 4 factoring problems. The multiplication's the easy part because all we got to do is whap stuff off, right? Okay, so we got to factor this stuff out. That's what you got to know how to do. All right, and we got to do that same thing to the bottom. And we're going to do that over here to this one as well. And actually, I'm not going to do it like this. I'll do this. I'll show you why in a sec. All right, let's do this one first. So we got to find out, let's see, z goes here, z goes here. They're both plus, so they're both plus. Now, what times what is 36? And they add up to 13. So what is it? It's not 6 and 6, right? Because that adds up to 12. So what else we have? 9 and 4. Good. 9 and 4 work. Right? They multiply to be 36 and add up to 13. That's not hard, is it? Okay, what about this one down here? 8 and 9. Good. They're both plus. Makes it pretty easy. So 8 and 9. And it doesn't matter what order you put those in. What about this? This looks like a difference of 2 squares. That's always a nice, easy one. Now remember, a difference of 2 squares, one's positive, one's negative. That's right. So you got a z here and a z here, and it's 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Now look at this one right here. We're not doing a regular type of factoring like we did over here, but it's just a common factor, greatest common factor. What's in common with both of these? Is z. So if I factor out a z, what do I get? Z plus 4. Good? That was the hardest part of it right there. Now the fun part. I like this part, don't you? Watch. Bang, bang. That goes. What else? Z plus, well, yep, z plus 4s, z plus 8s. Wow. See? Wasn't that cool? So now, what's left over? Z minus 8. What, are you laughing at me because I said it's cool? Okay. Alright, so there you go. That's it. That's all there is to it. Okay, you got to know how to factor, though. Right? The multiplication part was the easy part. Right? Now, remember, it was a division problem, wasn't it? So the first thing we actually did was multiply by the reciprocal. So I took what was on the bottom, I stuck it on top. What was on top, I put it on the bottom. Factor, cancel, bang, you're done. All right. Number 9. This looks like one of those complex fractions. Now, by saying complex doesn't mean it's more difficult. Even though you think maybe it is, but it just means there's a fraction on top of another fraction. That's what it means when it says it's a complex fraction. Okay. You know what I'm going to do first thing? I'm going to do something with this. I recognize that, don't you? It's a difference of 2 squares. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll write all this out again. So let's do this. It's going to be p plus 6, p minus 6. Right? We already talked about a difference of 2 squares up here. Plus p, right? Tell you what, let's do this right now. I'm going to put a p here, but it's p over 1, so what do you have to do to your denominators here? You've got to find a common denominator, so what would it be? It'd be p plus 6, p minus 6. Now, if I do that to the bottom, what? Got to do the same thing to the top. Does that make any sense? Because look what I did, basically. I basically just multiplied that thing by 1, didn't I? But now I got a nice common denominator, and that's what I'm going to want to do. Right? And that's all over 1 over p minus 6. I got a p minus 6 up here. I'm having a feeling about this, aren't you? That maybe that might cancel or something. I don't know. Let's see. First of all, let's not even mess with this yet. Let's just mess with the top. Okay? So it's going to be, tell you what, let's give myself some more room. This is what I like about this program. I can do some things on this that you can't necessarily do. Oops. Who's whistling? Alright, look, now I got some room. Magic. Alright, so what do I need to do? I got a common denominator, right? So let's do this. Let's put a big old fraction right here. I got a common denominator of p plus 6, p minus 6. Right? I'm just looking at here, right? Common denominator, so I'm putting it over one denominator. So look at this. This is just a 5 plus, what? P times p plus 6, p minus 6. Right? All I did was just rewrite this over one denominator. I really didn't mess with it at all, hardly. And this is all over 1 over p minus 6. Agreed? Now, what are we doing? This is a big division problem, isn't it? So we just said this on the other problem. Division is the same thing as doing what? Multiplying by the reciprocal. So let's just take this whole thing. Instead of dividing by 1 over, I can multiply by what? P minus 6 over 1. Do you see that? So instead of doing a division, I did a multiplication. Then I flipped it. Instead of 1 over p minus 6, it's p minus 6 over 1. Now, what can happen here? Do I take all that stuff and multiply it all together? No, because look, this p minus 6, right, it's being multiplied by all this stuff, isn't it? So I can cancel it out. So p minus 6 divides into this p minus 6, so that goes right there. So now I've got my answer. It's just 5 plus. Now, did they leave that p? How did they write that answer? Did they leave that p out in front, or did they? Okay, so they do multiply it all together. Okay, so you know what? Now, I guess it was important to factor that thing out, sure. But let's go back and do this again. This is p plus 6, p minus 6 is p minus 36, right? And multiply, do you see that? I'm going p times p minus 36. P squared minus 36. Okay? So what am I going to do here? What's this going to be? It's going to be p cubed minus 36p. Over what? This thing right here. Remember, that's still on the bottom. We didn't lose that. Over p plus 6. Is that the answer I read off? Yeah, that's probably the best way to write it. Okay? Alright, if you're still not sure about it, go back, on YouTube, look at it, try it again, go step by step, stop it, do the next step, try to figure out what we're supposed to do next, and then try it on your own. That's what I would do, okay? Follow along with me as I do it, and then after you think you got it figured out, shut it off and try it on your own. All right. Do we have enough time to do 14? Wishful thinking. Let's do this. X to the negative 4/5, y to the negative 1/3, z, that's supposed to be a 3, z to the 7/6 over x to the negative 1/5, y to the 7/3, and then z to the negative 5/6. Alright, let's do this quick, alright? If you don't get it now, you can always look later. What I'm going to do is take this, throw it to the bottom, so that's going to be x to the 4/5. Okay? Multiply those together, and what do I get? X to the what? 3/5. Right? Just add the exponents together. All right, let's do this. Let's take this and chuck that to the bottom. So that's going to be a y to the 1/3. So y to the 1/3 times y to the 7/3 is y to the 8/3. And then let's do this. Chuck this to the top. So that's to the 5/6. So that's what? Z to the 12/6. What's z to the 12? What's 12/6? 2. And then, is that the way I wrote the answer? Or gave out the answer?
Will Gossett, Breon Bryant, please come to the upper school office.
Nope, not
Danielle,
hard at all.
Nyquist, Faith Johnson, Owen Winstead, Summer Pollinger.
Yeah, hang on to these because we'll do some more tomorrow, okay? I'm going to give you the other worksheet. I was going to give you the other worksheet today, but I think I'll just give it tomorrow. We'll answer some more questions on it today, or tomorrow, and then I'll give you this part B, all right? It's the same exact worksheet. It's just another one, just to give you extra practice, all right? So, go over these.
Hannah Mears.